Hi, my name is Tomasz and you're watching Casual DIY channel. In today's episode, we'll be talking about mica powders for resin casting and resin dyes. What is the difference and what you can achieve by using them? Check out the video. First of all, I'm gonna mix up some resin for us so we can use it for, well, checking out the different types of effects we can actually get with the mica powders, and obviously what you can expect from using a resin dye. In my case, I'm using resin from Resin Pro. This resin can be casted up to 2 centimeters and the mix ratio is 100 to 60 by weight. So let's mix up some resin. Okay, so we've got our resin mixed and I'm going to pour more or less equal amounts to these 2 cups. So which colors should we use? I think we're gonna go for the violet. It's absolutely fantastic. So I got 1 mica powder and 1 dye, resin dye. Look at that, it's absolutely fantastic. The color is so lovely. And that's my resin dye. That's from Resin Pro as well. Okay, so let's do a basic casting. Where I'm going to add a reasonable amount of the mica powder and resin dye, and you'll see just basic setup in these 2 molds when they're fully cured. Okay, and we'll just mix that. Now you really need to mix it quite well so all the powder is dissolved in the resin itself. It all depends what resin you're going to be using. The one I've got, the viscosity is not far off from water, so it's quite fluid, so it's very easy to actually mix the mica powder. But please bear in mind, depending on what resin you're going to be using, sometimes they're quite thick and mixing any powder in it could cause a bit of a problem, but in my case no issues at all. Look at that, absolutely fantastic, beautiful. And now the dye. You will be able to see the difference straight away in a cup. So I didn't add a lot of dye, and the resin itself, I hope you can see that, is actually not transparent. But if you added a lot less dye, you would actually have an effect where the resin would be transparent a little bit, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. So you have to mix it really well to get the good bond between the dye and the resin itself. But you can see now the resin itself, in this case, it doesn't have any effects, it just took the color of the dye. Whereas with the powder, you've got some shimmering effects in there. I hope you can see that. But we'll do the casting and I will show you exactly how it looks like. So I hope it's quite clear to see the difference. As mentioned before, the resin with the dye is just took the color from the dye. There is no additional effects. Whereas with a mica powder, you get the shimmering effect of the powder itself, and you can actually achieve different shades of this. As you can see, as I'm moving the resin, the powder itself, it creates this fantastic pattern. But it all really depends what type of effect you're looking for. So let's do another casting with the dye but we'll add a lot less. And now we're gonna add the dye again, but far less than we did before. More or less this amount. And look at that, it's far more transparent than it was over here. So you don't really need to add a lot of dye to achieve different types of effects. If you added a lot more dye here, that would be a bit darker, and obviously you wouldn't be able to see through this. But when this sets, I'm going to pour it in the mold here, you should be able to actually see through. So it all depends on what projects you're doing and what you need to achieve. Okay, so that's out of the way. Next thing, what about mixing both of them together? Mixing the dye and the mica powder. What effect will we achieve? Let's have a look. So I've got a bit of resin over here. I'm gonna add some dye. And now we'll mix in a bit of powder. So what can we see here? I think the color that's being achieved here is a little bit richer. It's a little bit deeper than it was just with the mica powder, and obviously the dye itself on its own. I think this actually looks a lot better, but we'll wait for when everything is set and then we'll be able to compare. One question that you may have is what would happen if you're going to mix two different color dyes? Actually, it would be the same thing as you mix two different color of paints, i.e. you're going to create another color from these two. But how about what effect we could actually achieve when mixing different color mica powder and different color dye? Let's check that out. Right, so let's add some resin dye to the resin. Let's get a nice deep blue over here. Let's mix it really well. And on the other side, we'll mix up some orange mica powder. We'll pour in the blue first as a base. And then we'll touch up with the orange. Can you see what happened? It actually, the orange was sinking inside of the blue. So when you're gonna cut a blank like this, you can get really amazing effects with the orange being locked inside of the blue. So I hope you can see that now a little bit better. I've adjusted the camera and just look how the orange is sinking in the blue. But that is not all. So bonus content at this stage, guys. On so many videos you've probably seen where they add the mica powder to the resin and they pour it in the project, and then they make these fantastic gorgeous looking swirls. It looks like a galactic or something like that. It looks fantastic. You do the same and it's not coming out like that. Why? I'll tell you now. Okay, so first of all, let's go back to our first casting with the mica powder to see how it looks right now. Okay, it's this one right here. As you can see now, it's very similar to the dye. It equalized and it spread it across the particles of the mica powder in there somehow, and it's not looking as it was before with the nice swirls. So, what exactly has happened? As you know, resin, it sets by raising its temperature when you mix both of the ingredients together. Now this resin has been setting for a while. In the normal conditions, I don't know, it's 24 degrees Celsius right now in this room, but the resin, it's already working. So with this handy dandy device, we can see actually it has risen its temperature to about 40 degrees now in some places. 36, 34, 38. Okay, so the temperature is going up. Now, to achieve the swirls, we need to let the resin to sit for a while until it reaches about 70-75 degrees Celsius. Then we'll come back, make the swirls, and it will look absolutely fantastic. Alright, so I just checked the temperature, it should be just fine. Let's make them swirls. It's nice and thick. Maybe a little bit too thick, so probably I waited a little bit too long. But we'll still get the fantastic looking effect. Just play around with it until you get the desired effect. Look at that. That is the mixture of blue dye, and on top of it we've poured some orange mica powder, and look at that, the effect is quite remarkable. I wasn't expecting that to happen. It looks fantastic. I can't wait for that to set, and we'll have a look how it looks like when demolded. But I've got one more thing for you. I've got two colours here, one blue, one green. They've been sitting for a while now. The temperature has risen a little bit, and I will show you how to get a colour separation. Both of them are mica powders, so this is exactly how you get a fantastic colour separation. You just wait a little bit for the resin to raise the temperature. It's the same way how you achieve the swirls in the resin. Look at that. That's how you achieve a fantastic colour separation, when you wait a little bit for the resin to set. So now I will wait about 24 hours for these to set, and fortunately for you it will be just a second. Okay, see you in a bit. Right then, and it's time to demold our castings and to find out what effects we managed to achieve. Okay, so let's start with the first casting we did. That is just the dye itself. And as you can see, we've got a really nice colour. It's solid, not transparent at all. How about the casting where we added a little bit less of the dye? There you go, totally different colour, and that is just by changing the amount of dye. Okay, look at those swirls. They look absolutely fantastic. And that's being achieved by waiting for the resin to set a little bit, that when it achieves a higher temperature. Okay. And we've got the round one, which was a bit of dye and the mica powder. Let's have a look at this one. Look at that, so that's the bottom. So you got a lot of the mica powder that went down, but also look, it created this fantastic looking pattern. It's quite Incredible actually. And this one is with the color separation, so that's at the back. You can see clear separation over here as well. Again, if you waited a little bit longer, you can then make some swirls in it and make the effects you want. Look, that looks really, really nice. So that's the basics. I'm actually going to use my bandsaw to cut them through, and we'll see how they look inside as well. That will be quite interesting to see. And as you can see, there's no effects. It's just a solid colour. That's it. Next is the one that we added a little bit more of dye. My mold was twisted unfortunately, but hey, I'm not using this for any project. Well, as you can see, that is, it's not transparent at all. Again, it's a solid colour. Now let's have a look with the casting with the mica powder on its own. So we've got some nice swirls, but let's have a look what we've got inside. So we've got a little bit of a colour shift over there. Obviously that would come up a lot nicer when it would be fully polished. But yeah, there are some elements in there. It looks a little bit different. You're going to have the swirls inside of it as well. And now this one, the most interesting looking one. Obviously the mica powder went down, but we still got some interesting colours over here. So let's have a look. Look at that. That is so, so cool. Really interesting effect. On top like that, and inside, look at that. And there you go guys, really interesting effects, especially the one with the mica powders looks absolutely stunning, and the one with the mica powder on its own, the swirls inside are quite interesting. And obviously then you've got your solid colors. As you can see, depending on how much dye you will use, you're gonna have totally different results, from non-opaque to completely opaque. It all depends what you need for your project. Now I know these colors and all that is quite hard to see on the camera, so I'm actually going to be posting videos of all of these, how they came out, on my Instagram, Facebook page, and obviously my website. I will drop the links to all of those medias below in the description of this video, so you can actually have a look at high quality photos of these. I hope this video was informative for you. If it was, drop me that like button down below, and if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. But today, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.